You probably know this guy Dan Wootton wrote some bad things about Johnny Depp in The Sun, false allegations, but now Dan's got allegations out against him. Not only that, Dan's been fired from the Mail Online and suspended from GB News, probably permanently, but not only that, the police are investigating Dan in the UK. So things haven't been so good for Dan. Some people say karma. That could be true. Most recently, he laughed along with some comments that Laurance Fox made about a woman presenter, but the popular theory is that was the excuse to suspend him. It's probably really about the allegations, or maybe both. But Dan's suspended. This here's from Sky News from October 4th, 2023. It's called GB News Show Dan Wootton Tonight Receives More Than 8,000 Complaints After Laurance Fox Comments. To set the record straight, I disagree with the suspension, but I'm not going to feel bad for Dan after what he did to Johnny. I mean, what's right is right, but in the context of it being Dan, well, can't feel bad. So they mention what Laurance did. He said some things about this journalist. An episode of the GB News program Dan Wootton Tonight has received more than 8,000 complaints after comments made on air by actor-turned-activist Laurance Fox. Now I gotta wonder, are some people taking advantage here? And because Dan's not so popular, they're complaining about this. Which again, I don't have a big problem with. Because what he did to Johnny and what ended up happening was really bad. Dan never apologized after Virginia. Dan never took back anything. Never admitted he was wrong. None of that. He just sat silent, and when the case was over, nothing. Well, nothing I saw. And to be honest, that information would come to me. I've got people sending me stuff every day. I'm looking myself for every story possible, headlines, checking on the YouTube channel, seeing if they caught it. So I think I'd know if Dan said something about Johnny that was positive. Doubt it. Media regulator Ofcom, which is formally investigating the incident, said it had received a total of 8,846 complaints about the episode of Wootton's show on September 26th. So wow, almost 9,000. Looks like my thumbnail kind of undershot it there, but okay, technically in the 8,000s. So yeah, it could be some people not happy with Dan complained because they could. But that's their right, not like they did anything wrong. Forget Scofield and Edwards, new details reveal Dan Wootton's scandal is the most controversial yet. If you don't know, for some reason, Dan is accused of tricking some people into taping themselves do some things, in the bedroom, not safe for work stuff, but Dan didn't get their consent, and that's not quite legal. They get into Fox a little bit. They say he was disciplined. He knew what he did. He didn't apologize. It doesn't matter what they make him do or ask him to do or whatever. But honestly, the stuff with Fox is kind of off track from what we're talking about with Dan. They mentioned something that Fox said. All right, I guess it's not going to go away for a little while. It's going to get around the net. They mentioned Fox and Wootton could be heard laughing during the episode. And then, obviously, Dan was suspended by GB News. Goes without saying, so was Laurance Fox. Then they mention the Mail Online announced it terminated Dan's contract. They get into the incident more, which we've talked about over and over. To put some context here, seems like some people felt she kind of belittled male suicide, but what she said was, well, Fox could have criticized that, not my body. Yeah, right. I mean, fair enough. I understand that. But all in all, I just think what he said wasn't like so crazy. But the main thing here is these almost 9,000 complaints. I wish they got into it, which ones were about Dan, what did they say, which ones were about Fox. I mean, a lot could have been about Fox. But the fact is, the news is, they got almost 9,000 complaints, and Dan's name is on them. So, a minor incident, but add that to the pile of stuff that's going on with Dan, and it's one more little negative thing. Because you know what? Dan and his associates and Mera and all them mentioned a lot of details about Johnny, so there you go. Every little negative detail, let's mention it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Doing shout outs, special thanks. things like that. If you don't subscribe here, I'll be sad, but I'll get over it. See you next time.